Welcome back, everybody, to Confluence World Podcast with Bryan Rector. And today is episode 24. It's the absolute dog days of summer. I mean, there's just about nothing going on other than Confluence World Podcast. Today is a really special one because, unbeknownst to me, there is connection between Wilsonville, Oregon, and Michigan State University that we never saw coming in a million years. Now, I'll just do a slight little intro. On the left of your screen, you have Sydney Burns, who is point guard at UC Davis, and by the way, just so we're clear, Davis, California, on the West Coast, and is currently, I believe, at home in Wilsonville, Oregon. Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. and then to our right, we got Tiernan Shoudy, who was a part of Michigan State's Big Ten championship team on the ice, which we'll get into it. But for Michigan State, that's really largely a hockey culture, hasn't been able to be that for about 15 years. In the last 2 seasons, it has really reestablished itself as one of the premier and, daunting places to play at Munn Ice Arena, and they made a run all the way to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. So really excited to be here with these two titans of the game and strongly rooted believers who actually were just at Ultimate Training Camp in Fort Collins, Colorado. That's one of the events that AIA puts on as a part of Crew Ministry. And actually, we've had your roommate, Matt Basgall, on the show, who said the same thing about UTC. He was a part of it last year. We've had a few others, such as Jonathan Stout, who went to UTC as well, and then Caleb Coley, who just went with you both. So it's been fun to see how the overlap happens. But importantly, that's where this comes in. Because, Sydney, I thought from the bottom of my heart that you were going to be at the St. Thomas iteration of UTC that's happening this week. But when I found out that you were at Fort Collins with all of these Michigan State athletes who I've watched from afar, some of them I've met. Tiernan, today it's our first time meeting, actually, which is wild. But nevertheless, I went, oh my goodness, wait a second. Is that who I think that is? And as a matter of fact, that's when I texted you and you shot back like, yeah, it is. I'm here. And what's like crazy is then you started to say, hey, I've been able to ask, do they know you? And quite a few of them are saying yes. And that was something that really, I just want you to know, Sydney, that meant a lot to me. Not only for you to be doing that and, kind of bridging the gap, but also for everyone who said, yeah, we've been doing some good things, some interviews, some broadcasts, some whatever here at Michigan State. That was super cool to just reinforce the idea that God is really moving here at Michigan State. And now, the gap is bridged even further. So that's my long-winded intro. Without further ado, and Sydney, I want to start with you. How was your experience at UTC, and was it what expectations did you have as you were entering the week? Are there some key takeaways you had? Talk us through a little bit of how you felt about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And first I'll say too that I was so inspired to hear what is going on at Michigan State with athletes in action. The involvement was so cool to see. And then talking to Tiernan, we were in a couple of groups that week, our scavenger hunt group and our special group. But just hearing just how big of that movement is on your campus was really inspiring for me to hear and want to bring back to my campus too. And then second of all, every single person I met, we walked around with these little name tags that also had our school where we were from. And every single person I met with a Michigan State little Spartan on it, I was like, do you know Bryan Rector? Has he ever broadcasted one of your games? That was one of my first questions. And hearing that a lot of people knew you was such an encouragement because Bryan, we've known each other since elementary school. And I know this has been a dream of yours for so long to be broadcasting and involved with athletes and talking with athletes, and you're so well articulate. So that was so cool for me to see God just blessing you and doing that in your life. So that was awesome. So and then I'll say yeah, UTC was amazing. I came in with a lot of expectations just because there were a lot of people on staff or a lot of people who had gone in previous years were just telling me amazing things about it. And like so I came in with really high expectations of being really excited about meeting new people and learning all the principles and just being torn down, but like finding Christ in those moments. But I'll say too that coming in with expectations was kind of a hindrance for me in the beginning of camp, because I am not a very patient person. So when those expectations weren't met the first night or the next morning, I was already like frustrated with myself that I was like placing the importance of those things to come true on my timing so quickly. And that was a really powerful thing for me at camp. Was honestly, I think Monday morning, like our first principle, we were given time to like read through the passage that would be talked about later while learning about the principle. And then that time I was just really praying that the Lord would just help me submit all my expectations to him and to let go of that. And that was like very powerful. And he was gracious to allow me to just get rid of that. And from that moment on, which was like the first 12 hours of camp, that I really held tightly to those expectations. And then that moment on, things just got like exponentially better, easier to connect with people, easier to be vulnerable. And I just thought it was really powerful to just be that first step of just being in submission to the Lord and to let his plan happen in that 1 week was really, really powerful.
I appreciate what you were saying about how you acknowledged that, being impatient, relatively speaking, and then were able to actively work on that while you were in a conducive environment to do so. Talk about, because I know that, and I didn't want to say this term, but I will, because I think it adds up, is that UTC, there's kind of obviously a very controlled environment and very loving and, appreciative and expanding of knowledge, but there's also an element of physical training, and you're kind of bridging the gap, and it becomes a little bit, I would say, and here's the term, militaristic. It gets challenging. It's very tough. It's rigid. So I was wondering, is like in that, were those moments challenging to you, and how did you find a way to conjure up the strength to get through those tough challenges that were had out on, whether it be a course or completing some of the activities that you were?
Yeah. I think the most challenging part of camp was the challenge called the special, which is the 20-hour. And I can't get into specifics. I feel like I'm not allowed to, but you have to experience it. 20-hour challenge of like physical conditioning. And so Tiernan and I were on a team for that. So I think we had 6, right? 5 or 6? Yeah. 6. And so Tiernan saw me very weak and very tired, and we were cramping up together. And so that was definitely like a hard feat physically. And I think what was really powerful and what really helped our team get through that was allowing ourselves, or being allowed to like invite God into those moments and to be really prayerful. And I know not every single rep we did, or every single new exercise we were doing, we didn't pray before all of that, but the times we did, we were brought together so much tighter as a team and able to uplift each other. And then also we were able to like put our sights onto what's the reason that we're like saying yes to doing all these physically demanding exercises, because this isn't for the purpose or the betterment of my ability to play basketball or Tiernan's ability to play hockey, because there was no direct correlation, but this is for the betterment of like understanding God's purpose and why he's given us the gifts in our sport, and how we can apply our faith into sport. And so that was really powerful, just the prayer. And I wish, and I'm hoping that this year there will be more opportunities to just pray with my team and to just invite God into the court, into practice, into the locker room, whether that's me praying or prayerfully, that's with like a lot of members of my team too. So that was really powerful.
Mm, absolutely. And one of the last keys that you mentioned is something that I want to shift over and ask you actually, Tiernan, is because Sid, what you just had mentioned is that you would love for there to be an opportunity where you can share publicly within your team more so than you have. And I know that was a commonality with what you were saying about wanting to be bolder with your faith and figuring out, ways to be expressive.
Yeah.
One of the largest ways to do it as a collegiate athlete is going to this camp. So how did you get to a point where you were open and ready to go and commit to such an event like this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's fairly new, I guess, like with the confidence things. I think UTC is one of the things that helped me a ton with that, is just being confident with it and wanting to be open, because everyone at the camp was just so confident in their faith and being open about it around everybody. It's like, it was super powerful. And like, ultimately, if you're open about it, you can bring somebody else to the Lord. Like, that's going to be the best thing that ever happens to them. And for me, just like I was told at camp from my small group leader, like, be the light. It actually says it on this wristband here. But that's just one thing that I've just been trying to work on, is being that light, whether even not even if it's just like always talking about God or talking about Jesus, but just like being there for people and being happy and uplifting and like being there for people when they need it, and not just always kind of when you need something from them, but like when they need, when people need stuff from you. So it's pretty eye-opening, just the confidence and just trying to be there for everybody, no matter the situation. So
talk to me about, because I know you guys have been led and coached by Coach Nightingale the last couple of years. And I believe, just so I'm clear, he's been here as long as you have, right?
Yeah.
His first year was yours and vice versa. What is the culture like within your team at Michigan State? And I'm curious, within that is like, did you find any similarities or differences between the teams that you were building out there in Colorado?
Wow. That's kind of a loaded. I feel like, like there's obviously a lot of similarities with people like wanting to grow and wanting to get better at their certain things. So like for us at UTC, like we're all trying to grow in our faith and grow in our relationship with the Lord. And everyone on our team is obviously trying to get better and grow in the game. And like he always talks about is we're all young hockey players, even though like whatever, I'm 22, like I'm pretty old for a hockey player in college, but he always talks about how like people are young hockey players. So I think like coming into UTC for me, especially, like I was definitely young in my faith and like still growing and looking to grow. And that's the thing with hockey and like us and our team and our cultures, everyone's looking to grow. And I think so like at UTC, I think everyone was there looking to grow in their faith, looking to grow in their relationship with the Lord. So I think that's definitely a similarity. But I don't know, I think the hockey world in general isn't maybe too spiritual, I guess. Like nobody really is very open about their faith. Like if you are, it's kind of like, oh, you wear something, but it's not really something that's talked about. And I don't know, I think that's something that coming back from UTC is like, was one of my missions, is wanting to change that and be someone that can talk about it with other people. And if some people maybe that they're a little bit afraid, try to give them the confidence that I was given at UTC. So.
Absolutely. And after having come back and kind of a renewed mind and a little bit of a fresh perspective, do you have any idea, if you've been thinking about it, what is the next kind of tangible step with your faith that you can take that you'd be excited to embark on?
Next tangible step, I guess for me is just like kind of what I've been saying, but just being open about it. But I don't know, I started kind of, so our AIA leader, we went on a trip with him recently, and he gave us these like notebooks, and he just like it just says our name on it and stuff. And it's a cool little thing. It's kind of just like writing down your thoughts. If you're thinking them and you don't want to, like, you're not really going to say them to yourself, you can write it down, and it's kind of like something that'll stick. And then you have something written down where you can go back to and remember a time where you were in a good place. Like, for example, coming back from UTC, like you're in a good place and maybe you're a spiritual high, but when there's going to be spiritual lows too, where you can go back and remember what you were thinking at that time or what was going through your mind and stuff like that. So that's something that's new to me. And that's something that I'm really trying to grow in, trying to like figure out how I want to write. It's kind of it's not really perfect. Like I've read his a little bit. I'm like, wow, that sounds really good, but mine don't sound like that yet. But it's kind of just like one of those things where it's like you got to trust in the Lord, and the Lord will kind of help you. And it's not always going to sound the same as somebody else's, but it's just like it's your own way. It's for you, so it's kind of just growing in your own ways.
That's right. Yeah, I think comparison is a dangerous game. You know, I think it's one of those that can really be a culture shock to a lot of teams and a lot of environments that are seeking to grow, right, and move forward. Sid, a lot of what Tiernan just said is about being reflective and about finding ways to fixate on what you learn and be able to express it through these different mediums. And I find it interesting that he just mentioned that because he's still in the swing of things, doing classes on Michigan State's campus, doing some trainings. You're in a period of time where for tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, you're headed back to UC Davis. And
I'll be going to work at summer camp on Friday. So I will be out of Wilsonville soon. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. But in that way, you have been home for, you know, a decent amount of time, almost a week. Is there any time that you've been able to be reflective and think through things and do some writing and kind of collect your thoughts about the last year of basketball in school and then of UTC, as Tiernan was talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Our basketball season ended March 17th. So what is that now? Like 4 months ago? I don't know if that's even right. But
right.
Okay, wow.
Three.
Okay, three. Okay,
That's
I'm
fine.
bad with months. So yeah, our season ended, and the off season was just actually a really powerful time of reflection for me. It was a really hard basketball season. It was my third year, and it just kind of took a toll on me in areas that I wasn't expecting. And so leading into the off season, I just started to really think deeper about like what my cycle of work is, what my why I get into these bouts of like just being really drawn out of energy, like losing a lot of energy throughout the season. And just trying to understand myself better in certain situations, in certain relationships. And then just be really prayerful about that. And I think one thing that was really, really eye-opening to me through that reflection was like something I've been learning since playing college basketball is like, where is my identity really rooted in? And it's just so blatantly obvious to me that like year by year, it gets closer to me putting more of my identity in Christ, but I'm still holding on to the identity in basketball and playing time and stats and my reputation as a basketball player or just as being a people pleaser on campus and with friends. And it was eye-opening that like I can lose my confidence really easily when my identity is based on something that's so wavering. And really through that reflection, it just pushed me so much to like desire to put my identity in Christ. And so for UTC coming at the time that it did, which was a couple months after the season ended, and while I had like identified that through my reflection, it was really, really a valuable time for me to see like this is possible, and more than just people that have done it saying like you can put your identity in Christ and you need to do it, but there were like principles, there were labs, there were people to talk to about how do I do this. And so that was really valuable to learn my truths of like my God-given identity that I'm loved and I'm fully fulfilled in Christ and fully satisfied by him. And then also just in that environment to like see it and live it out and see people choosing to believe that and seeing lives changed by that belief and that truth in their lives. So the reflection was really amazing for me, and the UTC came at a great time for me to move from reflection into the process of like building up the identity that I need to fill in Christ.
You know, I feel like, first off, thank you for sharing and going into great length about what it has been since the end of the season. I think it's important to mention and acknowledge and also give you guys some flowers because the UC Davis Aggies made it to the Big West final, right? And that's something that, if I'm not mistaken, Sid, that was the furthest you guys had gone in the Big West during your tenure. And I was wondering, is like you touched many a time during your explanation of feelings and thoughts during and after the season about energy and how it was draining and approaching burnout and needing time to step away. I was wanting to know, is making it to the championship of the conference as you did and having the extended season, so to say, did that change your attitude towards God and your orientation of the separation between winning versus glorifying him, having made it to that point? Or were you able to kind of stay rooted during that period where you were experiencing more success than your team had the last couple of seasons?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was our season definitely ended on a high note, which is like what every basketball team dreams of, is playing their best basketball in March. And we did get to that point where we really were playing our best, and we wish it could have been a couple games longer worth of basketball, but that's okay. But yeah, it was really a blessing to get to that point. But it was like I said, it was a hard season. It was a hard year, and I really found like um, being close to God in those times was really helpful. And so, while we were experiencing a lot of success towards the end of the season, um, there was still just like my heart posture was still like, God, I don't know what our team deserves. Like, I don't know what will come out of this tournament. I don't know what will happen. Um, and like losing that championship game was hard. It was really hard, and like seeing the other team celebrating, and after, I mean, we'd worked really hard that week. That whole season. It was difficult. And there was definitely a moment where I felt like the work and the pain I had gone through during the season, of just the wear and tear of that year, I was just kind of for a moment really asking God, like, what, like, I thought you'd make something beautiful out of this season. I thought something good would come out of this, and like we just got second place. Like, we're the first winners or first losers right now, right? And there was like a real moment of that, and like the Lord was so gracious to like give me an answer so quickly, like even the next day when I was at church, and for him to just show me that, like, no, he still is making something beautiful out of it on his timing, not my timing, because my timing was that it would have happened in March, but it's still happening, and it's something even better and more eternal than that championship would have been. So.
Mm. Absolutely. And Tiernan, I want to shift to you because we had touched very early on the concept that Michigan State has been building back and it's going remarkably well. But in that, it's happened so fast.
Yeah.
Is that something that you felt like has been difficult to adapt to at times? Has it been a tough thing to handle the outward pressure of what somebody like me, a media member, somebody on campus can say or think about you guys and how you're doing internally?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, especially like going from my first year to my second year, it was like first year, start of the year, like we didn't have a lot of fans. Like you could, whatever, there's a ton of empty seats. Second year, by the end of the first year, maybe like a lot of people were there, kind of start feeling the pressure, but we're like, oh, like next year is going to be our year. Like we're getting all these guys, it's going to be our year. And then I remember, so we're doing really well. Michigan's coming to town, like rival, like it's a big game. Everyone's hyping it up, and we're like, oh, like this is our year. Like we're gonna beat Michigan this year. Like I think we beat them once the year before, but we hadn't beat them a lot in the past few years. We get beat 7-1, and it's like, what just happened? Like it's supposed to be our year, and everyone like you kind of felt like in the place, like people still like whatever, they still appreciated us, but it was kind of like, well, like that was really embarrassing, and I don't know. I think like, for me at the time, I wasn't very like rooted in my faith. So that like hit me really hard. And I remember like our chaplain texted me after the game. He's like, hey, like I'm upstairs. I'm like, nah, like I'm not coming up. I'm not coming to see anybody. Like my family's there. Kind of like blew them off. And that was one of the things too for me, especially being really competitive. It was like, whatever, a win or a loss, like I'm at the mountaintop or I'm down in the valley. Like it was just controlling all my emotions. And as I started kind of learning to put my trust in God and to put my faith in the Lord and not have to have my identity in my sport, it was one of those things where I could enjoy a win for what it was, or enjoy like in a loss, like it didn't kill me. It didn't like put me in the valley, like I just said, but it was kind of like, okay, like we can learn from this. And that's one thing that I'm still learning out, is just finding that freedom in your sport, because that's ultimately like the most fun in the sport, is when you're playing free and you're not worried. Like, I mean, obviously you still want to win, you don't want to lose, but it's just that freedom to go out there and play and have fun, and like you're a kid again, you know, the fun of the game when you're a kid. So that's one of the things for sure.
And I think a lot of that energy and that zeal, right, for playing the beautiful game translates to how you're pursuing God. And I love what you said when you mentioned that. But I also think it's really good that you mentioned it, because in your 2 years at Michigan State, you've become somebody who's known for showing up in big moments, such as last year. And I don't want to do it to you, but I have to. Because it's true. It's a statistical fact. This is what's been happening. 3 games last year, you were charged with the game-winning goal. That was a team high. This year, there were a couple games where it was a couple assists here, it was a goal and an assist here, such as in the Big Ten championship and then into the NCAA push. What does it mean to you to have that role and be somebody who's found a way to get into that position and make those plays and kind of, in a lot of ways, lead the team in a physical sense?
Yeah, I mean, for me, especially like thinking back, like Big Ten championship, the duel on the D was like one huge game this year at Little Caesars Arena, like packed, just a really big game for us. And that, I feel like those games were the games where I was like thinking about the Lord the most before the game. That I'm like, I remember sitting there before the Big Ten championship and I'm like praying and like thinking about the Lord, just like looking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had goosebumps in my whole body. I felt like I was like floating, just sitting there before the game, and I was like, it was crazy. Like that was something I was trying to work on too, is like thinking about and like finding a focal point. Like I had learned about the focal point thing before UTC because somebody had taught me it. And so I'm looking for a Bible verse I kind of want to think about before the game and stuff. And it's just pretty crazy how when you are looking for the Lord the most and when you're looking for him to be with you, he shows up, and he's like, I was able to play free and not have to worry about whatever a bad play, because I could be the one whenever I had a bad play, like I would think about it for like the rest of the period or the rest of the game or something like that, and just being able to like kind of push that off and not worry about it and keep just worried about the next play. And that's the thing that's one thing that I've been really trying to focus on. And I think knowing that my identity is not in my sport, but it is in, and like I'm saved in the Lord, like the battle's already won. Like somebody told me at UTC, and it was so real. Just the battle's already won. You don't have to. It's not like this game and this play and whatever. Even this season means so little in all of eternity. So,
you know, folks out there, I want to take a moment to understand what he just said. I feel like if I had to use a word to describe what was just mentioned, it's resilience. It's the act that when something occurs that's a negativity, it's how do you respond to it? It's the understanding that it's not what happens to you, but it's how you get back. And I think that's something that's a significant leadership quality as well. Being able to lead people, being part of an organization, striving for a goal. And Miss Sydney Burns, I know that you, the last couple of years, have defined yourself as a leader for your team and been able to be, you know, whether it be kind of a captain's role or something like this. What are your thoughts about being able to be resilient and that next play attitude, that next moment attitude, and coming back with something greater, you know, despite what may be the highs and lows of a season?
Yeah, definitely a self-proclaimed leader. I would say, resiliency, very key in basketball. That basketball is just common phrases that it's a game of runs. So there will be moments when your team has great momentum, and there will be moments when the other team gets back that 20-point lead that you just had on them. And so resiliency and like the momentum of that is really important. And I think it's like the mental game of basketball really highlights a resilient player, of someone that can let go of the mistakes they've made, the past missed shots or the turnovers that they've had, and turn it around and just keep playing with the same amount of confidence. I think that's really key to staying resilient, is that whether or not you're playing at your best, that you're confident, you know you are capable of playing at a higher level. And so resiliency is just like the patience to and grace to let yourself get back to that high level, even when it's not showing up in the moment. And I think it's very helpful to have teammates that that like the truth is not only coming from within you, but that there's encouragement and you're being uplifted by your teammates or people around you that will help you just be patient to get back to that level of high playing.
Wait, can I add something?
Yeah,
Sorry.
of course.
Sydney was our captain, like our leader at UTC for a special team group. I mean, it was just so natural for her. I feel like me, like thinking about, I think back like to during the special, like playing basketball, or whatever. Like she drops a dime, I'd miss like a wide open layup or something. She's the first one. They're like, "Hey, it's all good." Like high five. Like I'd never seen somebody so like. And then she was talking about patience earlier too. I'd never seen somebody like so patient with like a bunch of people that like. I mean, we had a couple good basketball players, but maybe not the best. Like me chucking up a three, I remember, and she's just like the first one. Like, hey, like it's all good. Like I don't know. She was so patient. So it's pretty cool to see. I mean, like to know that she's a leader on her team. Obviously, like that was pretty obvious because I saw her at UTC. So,
thanks, Tiernan. You also hit that three. He had I should have known he had that clutch gene. I didn't know about his history in hockey, but he hit a game-winning three for us in the special. So it translates to all sports.
This is really cool here. This is the type of interaction that I was desiring to have. And I'm just so pleased that we're able to speak on these things, reveal these keys, and move forth for the kingdom. Thank you both for being here. And, there are quite a few more places we could go out of this conversation. But Sid, I want to ask you something that's, I'll call it unrelated to where we've been, but something that I think will kind of translate to where I want to go. So let's try this here. Is like coming from where you and I come from, Wilsonville, Oregon, and having grown up in the community and been able to see what it's all about. What are some of the ways that your journey in basketball have been similar to what you thought, and what are some of the ways where it's been different from however you imagined it to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I'm in Wilsonville right now. We're both from Wilsonville. It's a great community, and I honestly feel like Davis, where I'm going to school now, is a pretty similar community to Wilsonville, of people being really involved and really excited. And we just had a girls basketball camp last week, and just seeing the little girls that were like so excited to play with us and just to be around us is just like so inspiring, because that was the kind of basketball player I was growing up. And just like no matter what level it is, it's just always cool to see someone ahead of you doing what you dream of. So that was really a good full circle moment last week. But I would say, yeah, my expectations for college basketball, I think in college sports, you never really know what to expect because you haven't done it. And for me, my expectation was that it'd be similar to what I experienced in high school and club, but just like more hours dedicated towards basketball and more weight training. Or I really had a naive kind of expectation for what it would be. So coming into playing in college, it was kind of eye-opening, and it woke me up to see just what college sports means, what it means to get better, what it means to be a small fish in the big sea of like much better competition than you're used to be humbled. And I think a big reason why so many athletes, it's so apparent that they need to find Christ and have like a stronger relationship with him is because in college, your identity is so heavily put into your performance in the sport you play. And because a lot of people would say that's the reason they're at their school is to be playing their sport. And so it was very apparent to me that I that my identity was heavily put in basketball, which I was saying earlier. And so yeah, I think my expectations were nothing really serious, but I think I would say too, like it's for athletes, like we're used to working through and working harder and getting better by being resilient and by working harder. And I think that's something that's really valuable, and that's something that really will continue while you're playing a college sport too.
Mm. And then Tiernan, I want to shift to you and kind of ask the same thing of how is it aligned with what you thought it would be the last couple of years at Michigan State and in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I had pretty low expectations. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. Like, I had been committed to a coach for 4 years, and he gets like fired like a few months before I'm coming in, and I'm like, oh gosh, like what is going on? And like Nightingale came in, and he's like, hey, like I'm trusting you. Like if you think you're ready to come in, like I trust you and stuff like that, because I kind of was already like planning on coming in, and I'm like, oh gosh, like maybe I'm not ready. Like I don't know what to expect, and then I don't know, like we weren't like maybe the team wasn't in a very good spot, and it was kind of just like very like zero expectations. We're like we didn't know like what was going to happen, and the new coach, everything new, like it was new to everybody, so it was kind of nice in that sense, I guess. Like we're all going through the same thing together. Like even like the guys that have been here for 5 years, they're like, yeah, we don't know either. Like it's all new roads for them. So I thought it was pretty cool. Just we're all in the same boat together. And then whatever, obviously like it went pretty well last year. Then this past year went even better. It was just kind of, I don't know, it blew out all my expectations out of the water. And that was one of the things coming to Michigan State is I was like, I wanted to like be one of the people to help get Michigan State back to where it used to be. And obviously I'm a very little part in that. Like there's so much more that goes on, but I think just like being able to like say that we're almost back at the top, I guess. Like we're back in contention, I guess. And like everyone can, like the fans and stuff can be proud of a team, like the hockey team especially. So it was that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, I guess, is other people being able to be proud of the team. So
Yeah, no, I love obviously being a part of this community and understanding where it was and now where it's back to. It's been really a beautiful and, you know, I would even say heartwarming thing to watch. And what I would love to know, because I haven't been able to ask this and I've missed this a few different times during episodes, and Sid, I want to ask you the same thing, but Tiernan, when is it that you discovered that the game of hockey was going to be for you and that you understood it as a gift that you had and a way that you could make a name and be able to have a platform to share about the Lord?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty recent for me, especially like realizing that I had a gift. Like Sydney said, I kind of thought like, hey, like I'm here and I'm gonna make it somewhere because I just work hard, and like if I'm doing bad, like I need to work harder. It wasn't one of those things where I thought like, hey, like the Lord's got a plan for you and he's gonna help you in this plan. And I kind of, that's something that's very new to me, I guess. Like probably October this year, I realized like this is a God-given gift. It's not something that I did to get here. Like this is a God-given gift. And that's, like you said, like the platform you have, especially like Sydney was talking about with like younger people, like we have the same camps like that, and like these kids, they really look up to you. And if you can be something like be the light to them, and I don't know, maybe not like bring them to the Lord, but kind of plant a seed or something like that, where they see you as a believer and they're like, wow, like that's really cool. Like I want to do something like that too. Or even within the team, like plant a seed where somebody was like, hey, like maybe later down the line, like people did for me, like, wow, like he was so right. Like I remember some of my coaches back in the day, like talking about the Lord, like trying to get me to become a believer. And I'm kind of like, yeah, like that's cool for you, but maybe it's not for me. And then I don't know, like just being able to trust in God's plan that God's going to bring some of these other people, and like you can plant the seed, but ultimately he's going to be the one working in them to bring them to the Lord. So I think that's pretty special.
Certainly. And Sydney, you know, I think what we are beginning to touch on, which I think is a great conversation to have, is the idea of stewarding gifts and using what you have been given So when is it that you were able to acknowledge that, hey, basketball is something I desire to hone in on. I see a pathway forward with it. And how did that journey look for you when you first made that realization?
Yeah. I have an older brother, so whenever he started dribbling a basketball, I started dribbling the basketball too. And then when he started shooting, I started shooting too. So it was really from like those moments of like wanting to do whatever he did, that I knew I really liked playing sports in general. And then um, I think just talking to my parents the other day about this, about I played a lot of sports in high school and growing up. Um, I just wanted to try everything out and was just like a really active kid. But we talked about how like basketball really well fits like how the Lord has made me to be just like a competitor. Like I love competing so much. And basketball is like a really good avenue to compete like in a face-to-face way where it's like I want my ability to be better than yours and I want to like cultivate my team in a way that I can win more games than you can. And I think that like level of competition and that hunger for it that the Lord gave me like really works well with basketball. And we were talking the other day because I was a huge fan of Miracle on Ice growing up, and Tiernan knows is my only connection to hockey. But I used to want to play hockey growing up because of that movie. So that could I know hockey's an extremely competitive sport too. So it could have been basketball or hockey, but I wasn't born in the right place to get into the hockey lifestyle. Um, but yeah, but like also I think stewardship is such a great word and it's something I had heard before going to camp, but not something I really knew like the definition or the meaning of it. And camp was like really convicting and eye-opening to see that like stewardship is doing the best of with the gift you've been given. And it's like understanding that this gift is not in your possession, but it's freely been given to you. Our gift of hockey, our gift of speaking and connecting people, our gift of basketball has been given to us, but it is not in our possession. And so like not taking ownership of like what I've created out of my hard work or out of my work ethic and time in basketball, but understanding like this ability and this experience is all God given. And um, the way I can praise God for it is by putting my best ability forward in the opportunity I have to play basketball. So I think stewardship was a really impactful word to finally like make it clear to me like what that means and how I can implement that in my last year of basketball and my last season.
Mm. Thank you for ending the way that you did right there. That kind of set me up for exactly where I wanted to go, which is that being that it is your final season that's on deck, when the game is done and you're headed to some other endeavor, using a lot, I would imagine, of these same ideas and approaches as you move forward. Where are you headed, Sydney? Have you given thought to what it's going to look like post basketball and post Davis? And is there any update you can give if you so choose?
Man, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I think post Davis, I'd love to keep playing basketball professionally if that's an opportunity for me. So that's all in the Lord's hands, thankfully, and He has a great plan for me. So I'm not worried. And then in the working world, I really love what I'm studying, and that's focused around like food systems in other countries and making them more sustainable, um, more empowering to the people that are involved in them. So would love to work for a company involved in the empowerment of people in these countries that don't have really stable systems yet, food systems. So those are my dreams, and I'm excited. I'm really blessed to be studying something I like so much and I'm so interested in. But two, I've been really involved with like the ministry of at my campus with Athletes in Action, and I've started working at my church. So have really loved what like ministry has done in my life and the growth it's brought to me. So that could be another possibility of what I'd be interested in working in the future. So it definitely, a year out, I should probably have a more concrete answer, but that's where I am right now.
Hey, there is no probably with that. There's only
Yeah.
the option to have a more, planned out thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited and appreciative of where you are at, because to me that signifies that you're willing and able to go where you're called to go. And that's a great marker, I think, of having given your life to wherever you're called, is that being okay with saying, I don't know. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what the next year is going to bring. Tiernan, I want to shift to you, man, because of course you're a year behind where we're at in that whole process. But what are you doing off the ice? What are some of the things that you're headed for?
I mean, yeah, I kind of in a similar situation. Like, it is a little bit scary. I don't really know like what I want to do, but like she said, like just trusting the Lord's plan and kind of letting Him guide you and call to you whatever it is that He wants you to do. But obviously, like, I would love to play professionally, whether that's, I don't know, NHL, AHL, or like even like overseas or something like that. It's kind of just whatever God has in store for me, I guess. But other than that, like, I don't know. I have an internship right now with like this real estate company, Keller Williams. So maybe I know that's something that's been interesting to me, like learning about and stuff. And maybe that's not my future, but it is something interesting to learn about. And then I am a finance major, which isn't as cool as what Sydney's doing, but for you, I guess. But I don't know. It's something that like I thought about, like being able to help people with their money and helping them, whatever. Because everyone wants to have a ton of money, but like a lot of people don't know what to do and how to get there. So like being able to help people with that, and that's one thing we've talked about too. Is like a bunch of athletes work at this Keller Williams place, and like NIL is becoming such a big thing, and like students and student athletes especially, like they're so young, getting like millions of dollars, like they don't know what to do with it. Like being able to maybe help people like that and like help them set themselves up for the future, because especially like, I don't know, football is the biggest one where like they get all the money really.
For sure.
And like those guys you can get hurt and have a career-ending injury, and then it's all taken away from you. So being able to help them with that, and then like Sydney said, like if you were in a position with ministry, like to help them find the Lord, so then they don't really, their identity is not in their sport, and they can grow in their faith and like being able to play free and not have to worry all about football. Because I think that is one thing, especially a lot of football players, is like it's all or nothing, like it's either they're in the NFL or they got nothing. So it's one thing that I think could be very powerful. So.
Absolutely. Thank you first off for answering, and the last kind of segment that I wanted to go into before we get out of here is, and just to reiterate, thank you both for the time. Really do. I mean, this has been, I feel like, a great conversation, and I'm so fortunate that we've been able to do it. But this idea of, as you just touched on, both of you just touched on, community involvement and sort of outreach and opportunities to give back. I know that in both of your cases, there have been ways to do that. I know that at Michigan State Hockey, you guys have done some, whether it be like a toy drive or camps, or Sydney, I know you've helped at Pine Cove in Texas and other camps at Davis, and have these significant experiences that have made a difference on communities. How important is that as college students to recognize that there is a difference to be made? And I know that you two are both passionate and proficient at doing it. So I'll kind of leave that open for both of you. Whoever wants to go first can go.
I mean, I can go.
Okay.
I think for me, like especially a lot of those community outreach, like I remember we went to the hospital, we were in the pediatrics ward, and it's just so much perspective. Like a bad day in your world could be the best day in somebody else's world, like it's just such a different perspective. Like some people, like for example, like we're at the hospital, like these are like little kids, and they're like in the hospital, and like they're still happy and they're still having a great time, and like I don't know, for me, like you always think of a hospital as like a sad place, like people go there and like sad, and like I don't know, you just associate with sad things, but these kids are so happy, and they're so like just grateful, like to see you and like have you around. Like they were so happy, and it was just such a different perspective, because I think of whatever, a bad loss, I'm like, wow, that crushed me. But like these kids, like they would die to be in your shoes, to be playing college hockey or playing a college sport, or just to be like playing sports in general. So I think it's just perspective on life in general, for sure.
Sydney?
Yeah. I think like yeah, just the value of community is so strong and it's so uplifting to be involved in a community. I know my like some of my biggest complaints about first going to college, and I think a lot of college students experience this, is like being dropped into a new place with all new people and not having a community yet, and how that can be really, really hard to really know your team very well, but not like but just maybe to be limited to only knowing your team. And I know that can be really hard. And yeah, and how God just really calls us to be in community with our brothers and sisters in Christ and to be uplifted in that. And I definitely like can't praise God enough for like the people he's brought into my life at Davis. And I would say like what has made that possible is just getting involved and like saying yes to things. I know athletes like we most days like you'll start the day early with class or lift or practice or something, and then your day you probably have like 30-minute pockets or an hour pocket to get a nap in, and then the end of the day comes and that's when all the events start of like athletes in action or community groups at church and all those things. And I found so many like it's so easy to make excuses that I didn't have enough energy to give to that. But when I just like asked the Lord for more energy, when I was asking him to find community, it was by me just saying yes and showing up to those places. And like God really moved people into my life and really intentional like relationships through that. So um, to be able to give back to the community, I'm just like blessed to even have one at all and to have people that really know me well and care for me so much and are just very invested in my life and my walk with the Lord. So um yeah, so feeling very, very blessed that I'm able to like experience it first and then know what it feels like to be given that love and attention, and then from that point it's like how can you not share it with others. So that's been my experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, I'm gonna hit you with a really quick one here, Sydney. I'm
Okay.
gonna do it. And I am disappointed because I had to choose one to give this question to first. But what is a verse that's been on your mind and on your heart recently? And if you could share what it is, where it's from, and why it is that it's been important to you.
Okay. Okay, I'll say a couple verses that really stuck out to me through the basketball season was first. I really enjoyed reading through the Gospels, so the whole story of Jesus, the whole story of the Gospels stick out to me. But more specifically in Luke, where Mary is like met with the angel telling her that she is pregnant and will like give birth to Jesus. And her response is, "Behold, I'm the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to His word." And that one really stuck out to me um, throughout my season. That's Luke 1:38, and it was just like my identity is in Christ, and my role is to serve Him. And based off of those two things, I shouldn't have expectations for the future, but I should just have trust in the Lord that my life will be according to His word. And so that just gave me great perspective throughout the season. And then another one that gave me good perspective through the season was First Peter 1:6-7. And that one's a longer one, but that one was really powerful to me. It's in this you rejoice, though now for a little while. If necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold, though tested through fire, that perishes, may be brought to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. And so that one was like really impactful for me because that's what our basketball season is like. The tangible goal is to win gold, a trophy, which I doubt is real gold, but to win something that's so tangible, but and that can be praised on this earth, but that it perishes even though it's tested by fire and like the difficulty of a season. But like even more impactful is your faith that's been tested by trials. And if you can stand firm on like still loving Christ at the end of those various trials, then it's so much powerful that you're still pointing to him and his goodness than it would be to win anything.
My goodness. Thank you, sis. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tiernan, what about you, man? You've had time
It's hard to follow that one minute, but
No.
I think for me, like recently, I had the chance to go out to Montana with our Bible study group and our chaplain, and I remember we went on a hike, a 3-mile hike up the mountain, and it's just like, I mean, you look at the mountain, you're like, oh, that's nothing, and then you get going, you're like, oh gosh, like this thing's never ending. And we get up to the top, and I guess like the top of the trail, it wasn't like the whole top of the mountain, but like snow cap, and then there's like this lake, this beautiful lake with trees all around it. We actually went through Isaiah 40, and it was just like talking about the mountains and like how the Lord has like weighed them on a scale and stuff like that. And it's just like, and it's like a grain, like you weigh grains on a scale, but he's weighing the mountains on a scale, like this massive mountain, just like you just puts in perspective how like small we are in comparison to eternity. But the thing is, like, this great God, you can have a good relationship, and you can have a relationship with this God that we probably don't deserve, but Jesus died and sacrificed for us to have a relationship with this awesome and amazing God. So I think that's one that I've been thinking about, and I kind of been going back and reading, just like every time I think about the mountains, just like how beautiful they were, just like thinking about, wow, like he made all this, and eternity and heaven, it's going to be even better than that. And like, this is so beautiful, but like he has something in store that you could never even imagine how beautiful it's going to be. So that's one thing that I've been going through a lot, I think. So.
Praise God. I mean, seriously, thank you both for being here. Much appreciated, and so glad that we were able to do it. I'm seconds away from letting both of you go, but before we get out of here, how can people connect with you all? And are there any shout outs that either of you would like to give while we're here?
Shouts outs. Yeah, connect with me. I'm on Instagram. I actually don't even, it's Sydney_Burns13. And yeah, connect with me. Go to UTC. I say that would be one of my shout outs. It's worth it. I missed a week of class to go. And I'd say it's still so worth it. There's many opportunities to go. And then, I would say one thing that really helped me through this year was my community at church. So get involved at your nearest church, and just with people in your life that just want to lead you towards Christ.
Love it. Shoudy?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think whatever, shout out Billy G. He's awesome. I think just like she said, like getting connected in community, especially like whatever, if it's AIA or UTC, like obviously it's kind of a leap of faith going, because it is kind of expensive, but man, it's so worth it every dollar. But just like get involved, because that's the thing for me, is I would always kind of be like, oh, that sounds good, but never do it. And then when I finally did it, it was like an AIA cookout actually. So it wasn't even like, wow, we're sitting down going through the Bible, and like it wasn't like super like formal, but it was like just a cookout, and we were all like, I just noticed everybody had this, just everyone seemed so happy, and they had something that I didn't have, and or like I felt like I didn't have, so I'm like, wow, like, and I just kind of kept asking questions, and there's always people out there that are looking to answer your questions and want to help you in your faith. So just seek counsel, I guess, and look for people that can help you. If like maybe they're inspiring you or something, that they can help you and grow in your faith, and it's super powerful. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go follow Tiernan on Instagram too.
No, that's all right. I think it's just Tiernan Shoudy.
No, he's got that check. He needs those. He needs that number.
Burns. Much appreciated. We had to get that one in there. Well, you know what? This has been episode 24 of Confluence World Podcast, and so thankful to both of you for making this happen. So thankful to the divine connector that Christ is, for putting you two in the same vicinity and allowing us to make this happen. And very thankful for you guys, and excited to keep going with the show and continue to see impacts made, and the understanding that there are conversations to be had, and things, plans versus stories to share and to be unfolded right before us. So thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Bryan. See you, Tiernan.
Yeah.